Well, greetings, everyone, and welcome to a special online event today. It's called Illuminate Your Deeper Purpose with the Enneagram. Discover key tools and ancient technologies for uncovering and pursuing your purpose. My name is Stephen Dinan. I'm the founder and CEO of the Shift Network, and I'm really delighted to be with you here because our purpose is really at the heart of why we are here on the planet. And the Enneagram is such a powerful tool for understanding dimensions of our personality and soul that applying this wisdom to uncovering how we really live out that purpose is really at the heart of how we can live more of our full life here. So I'm delighted that we're going to get a chance to explore the Enneagram's role in uncovering and pursuing our purpose with one of the world's experts in this area. Her name is Ginger Lapid-Bogda. She's the founder of the Enneagram in Business and author of 9 Enneagram books. And was really going to provide some illumination on this subject today. So welcome, Ginger.
Thank you, Stephen. I'm really happy to be here.
Great. Well, I want to let everyone know up front, we're going to have this time with Ginger, and we got to have a brand new program coming out with her called Empower Your Deeper Purpose with the Enneagram. So we'll share a little bit more about that towards the end of the hour for folks who want to go further. So Ginger, let's start with a little bit about how you got connected with your deeper purpose through the lens of the Enneagram, and just kind of provide a little bit of the biographical backstory to today's program.
Okay. So I love my story because it goes back to when I was 5 years old. And I remember getting a message that I'm supposed to do something more, there's something I'm supposed to be doing. And I remember thinking of this, whatever messenger was, gave her the name Rose. So the 5-year-old Ginger said, I'm only 5. I remember I'm too young to be thinking about these things. And it's like, oh, no message after that. So it stuck with me my whole life. And I went through a number of careers. They all were connected. I was a teacher. I was a teacher of teachers. I was a Gestalt therapist. I became an organizational consultant, trainer, and coach. And I really did enjoy what I was doing. And thought I was pretty happy with it. But back in my brain, there was some message that said, is this it? Is there something more? So I kept thinking, I'm going to turn over a rock and there'll be a message about my mission. And that didn't happen. And so I was in my sort of late 40s. And I went on a vacation retreat at Esalen Institute, where I had been many times. It's in Northern California. And they have a beautiful location and wonderful food. And anyway, so I've been to many programs there and other places. And the one thing on the program when I was free was a program on the Enneagram taught by Helen Palmer. I'd never heard of the Enneagram. I'd never heard of Helen Palmer, but off I go. So 5 days into it, and I'm really just going, oh, well, I can use this for my personal development. I think the Enneagram is really pretty profound. So I was leaving the seminar overlooking the Pacific Ocean, high on a hill. And in my mind, it turns out I had a visual, and I thought it was actually real. So I was blinking to see, is this real? And it was a blimp or a dirigible, sometimes called a Zeppelin. And it had a message on it. And the message was, your job is to bring the Enneagram out more into the world. And I'm like, whoa, that wasn't my plan. And it came back a second time and it said, it doesn't matter what your plan is. And I'm like, okay, what am I supposed to do? And it came back a third time and it said, your job is to bring the Enneagram out more into the world. And I'm like, okay. So I got trained in the Enneagram not to do anything except work with my personal development. But then part of the program was I had to engage other people so I could help them find their type. And I had a lot of clients and organizations, and they said, how can you help us use this more in our teams and our leadership and et cetera? So all of a sudden it was very clear without efforting on my part that because I had such experience in that context, that was how at that point, was to bring the Enneagram out more into the world. And I've always seen organizations as a place where people meet or congregate. So for me, with the Enneagram, and I ended up teaching it and writing books, and all of that was part of, I guess, the bigger plan. But I always saw organizations as a place of spreading or distribution center helping people not suffer and helping people live more conscious lives. So that's really how I got to be doing all that I'm doing now.
That's a great backstory. And not all of us have that kind of a seminal moment that really clarifies our higher purpose for the next chapter of our lives. But let's talk a little bit about why the Enneagram now is such a good tool for uncovering that purpose and understanding that in a deeper way.
Well, I think that the Enneagram actually doesn't tell you what your purpose is, but when you find your purpose, it tells you a lot about why that matters so much to you. And it also helps us figure out, okay, if this is my purpose, then, and my type has me being oriented this way or with these great qualities and these areas I need to develop, shows me how I need to develop. And as I go through what we're going to do today, I'll be commenting on how to use both the centers of intelligence as well as some of the information about type in that pursuit.
Great. Well, let's dive into that. So let's look at some of the key factors that make pursuing our purpose easier with the Enneagram.
Okay, well, so I believe it starts with doing what you love. So, and also, the reverse, loving what you do and doing what you love. So how then do you know what you love? That's a big question. The second is is to be good at what you're doing. Because sometimes we may love something, but we're not very good at it. But there may be some aspect of what we love that we could be good at. And people often take their strengths and good qualities for granted. So the talents are pretty unending, but sometimes we're just not so good at something. And it's good to know that too. The third is to make yourself easy to be with, because the easier you are for yourself to be with and for others, the more you're going to be able to move on your, I call it, purpose path. The fourth area is to do what your purpose is, or to engage your purpose in a way that's aligned with your core values. That's sort of like the guardrails or the cornerstones or the checkpoints for, am I doing my purpose and being good at it and being easy to work with, but am I also aligned with my core values in all these steps along the way? And then the fifth important area is we don't live, work, function, manifest in a vacuum. We need support in terms of doing that. And that has to do with other people. And I love the Rumi quote, to be with those who support your being. So once you have that, then it's fun, because then we get into like, okay, how do I manifest this then? It's through the power of intention. And also, once you have all this, it's the potency of a simple plan. Sometimes we plan so elaborately because we really aren't sure where we're going, why we're going, what we're wanting to do. Actually, plans are fairly simple, and the simpler they are, the more potent they are. So I'm going to show you a little bit about, or help you experience a little bit about how some of this can be stimulating and fun rather than really complicated or kind of arduous. So I'm going to start first with an activity that utilizes the three centers of intelligence: the head center, the heart center, and the body center. So first, I'm going to ask you, if you would, to do this with me, unless you're driving, in which case don't do this, but to put your hands on your head. This is your head center. And then breathe into your head center where your hands and your breath come together. So you pay attention to my hands and my breath. Can you feel the breath under your hands? This is your head center. And we all have them. Now, if you take your two hands again and put them across your heart center, kind of in the middle of your chest, and then you go, okay, there they are. Now I'd like you to breathe into your heart center and feel where your heart and your hands, the breath and your hands come together. That's your heart center. And then you can take your hands again, and we're going to the body center, sometimes called the belly center. And that's the two hands that's 2 inches about below your belly button. And it's also referred to as the cough or the dantian. If you can breathe into your body or belly center, feel where your hands and your breath come together. So these are our three centers of intelligence: the head, the heart, and the body. So we use the three centers of intelligence in many ways when we work with the Enneagram. One way, though, that I'm going to show you is how to use the three centers as wise advisors. So I'm going to ask you to ask each of the center in a moment a question and just pay attention to the answers without judging it, censoring it, not knowing what it means. Just take what your centers have to say to you. So again, it can be helpful if you have your hands free. Put your hands on your head. And sometimes asking a question and getting the answer is best done with your eyes closed, but not if you're driving, of course. So I want you to put your hands on your head center, and I'm closing my eyes, and you can too. And I want you to ask your head center, where am I right now on my path or my purpose path? Where am I right now, head center? And let your head center offer its answer. And now I'd like you to take a breath and bring your hands to your heart center. And I'd like you to ask your heart center, heart, oh heart, where am I? What do you have to tell me about where I am on my purpose path or my pursuit of my purpose? Where am I right now? And if you want to close your eyes, you can. Sometimes the information comes a little more easily that way. And then finally, if you put your hands on your belly center or your body center, and then ask this question of your body center, body center, where am I on my purpose path? What's the truth from your perspective? Let your body center give its answer. And again, if you want to close your eyes, that's fine. And now you can stop. Now, my experience doing this with the three centers as wise advisors is no matter what the question you're asking, there's a pattern to their response. The head center has a lot more words usually. Sometimes the heart center has some words and it's a feeling response. And the body center has often fewer words. But if each of your centers, when you ask that question of each center, gave you a similar answer, probably it's clear. Your centers are very clear about where you are, wherever that is. If each of the three centers went in some really different directions in terms of their answers, it probably means that you're a bit confused or not sure right now where you are on your purpose path. That's okay too. It's good to know. And for some of you, you might have had two centers that said the same or similar thing, and one that said something very different. And what that usually means is one of two things. It can mean that the center that said something very different has some wise advice, some question, or some area for you to pursue, that if you pursue it and get the answer after the session, then you can bring it back and it will help you align all three centers. Or it could be that because of our types, sometimes one or more of our centers might be a little bit distorted. So it may be that your center needs a little bit sort of to relax a little bit. So, and you can work with that with working on your development. So I'll share what mine was, because I shared my purpose path just for continuity's sake. So I asked my head, so where am I? And my head said, you're good. You're really clear. My heart said, good, you're good, but there's more I want to do. There's more to give here, more to do. And my belly center said, oh, there is a bunch more. You're good, and there's a lot more. So I got basically 2 out of the 3 saying good, but my heart and my gut said there's more for me. Whereas if I just listened only to my wise advisor in the head center, it would have been, that's good. You can stop. You can do whatever. So I don't know what your answers were, but I want you and really encourage you and invite you to sort of work with that. So the next I want to do is just a very quick embodiment exercise, because I think it's really helpful to see. This is one that is very easy to use. And I learned this from a client of mine who's a type 1. And she said, she was a coaching client. She said, I would love to feel really calm. And so I said, have you ever felt calm in your life? I knew she had, but she didn't. She said, yeah. So I asked her to describe the experience. And as she was describing the experience when she felt really calm, I said, so how do you feel now? And she said, I feel really calm. And I got very much impressed by the power or the evocative nature of words, that we can actually bring them inside our somatic structure. So I'm going to invite you to do this now, which is to select a word that you would love to have more of in your life. Could be related to your purpose, could be related to, it doesn't matter really, because the process works for any of it. So pick a word you'd like more of in your life. Any word that you would love to have more of. And then allow that word to kind of come into your body or your somatic structure wherever it wants to. And so you can't really choose where it comes in. It comes in where it wants to. Mine came into my heart, and that whatever yours came in is fine, because earlier I was practicing this for fun and it came in, the other word I picked then came in through my back. So it will change on you, but bring that word in and allow that word to be inside you, wherever it wants to come in. And this is where it's like to trust your somatic self to know what's right for you. Bring that word in and then allow that word to stay in, but to spread a little bit so that it gets a little bit more bigger or spreads into more space. And you can use your breath to allow it to be more spacious so that when you're inhaling, there's more breath that allows that word to come in. And then as you exhale, the word's still there, but you're allowing even more opportunity for more breath to come in. So that, just do that for a moment. And just see how much you can allow that word without trying to control it to get into your legs and your arms and even your hands and your fingers, your shoulders, whatever. Just allow that word to spread in you. And that's a way to embody something that you want, which is related to the power of intention. And I'll just share with you what my word was. My word was fun. That just came to me. So I did that. And as I brought fun in, and it came in through my heart, all of a sudden, actually, it shifted from fun to joy. Because my heart sort of, I think I'm interpreting it, but it felt like it wasn't just fun, enjoyment, it was joy, more joy. And that felt really good to me. So I wanted to give you a kind of a sampling of what the experience of pursuing your purpose might be like.
Well, thank you for those examples. And I'd love for you to share a little bit about how those might lens differently for different Enneagram types, maybe with a few examples.
Oh my. How would those be different? Stephen, are you referring to the practices I just did?
Yes. So like accessing the wisdom voices, for instance, where might we have some tilts or biases?
I see. Okay. Okay, good. So ones might tend to pay more attention to the head and to the gut, but less to the heart, which doesn't mean they don't have access to it, but I feel like a whole new experience. And sometimes if there's a center we don't use very much, that can be a really wonderful new advisor to us. In twos, there's a tendency to trust the heart a lot, but maybe overwork the heart and maybe not pay as much attention to the head and sometimes the body. So it's, this breathing practice can actually be very helpful in sort of activating the head and the body for Enneagram twos. Now, sometimes threes use a little of each center, so it's a little hard to know for them because they are heart center types, but they use it to read their audience. But often if they do this kind of thing, that threes will find that there's a deeper heart that is about what they themselves want, not what they should want, but what they really, truly want. And for fives, they'll tend to rely primarily on the head center. I've had fives say to me, the head center is the only center I trust because it's logical. And I had to say, oh, but there's different biases to logic. That it has its own logic, yes, and the head center is important, but helping them access heart and body is extremely important. In sixes, there can be a collusion. Is that the mind starts to worry and the heart gets really anxious, right? Or the heart starts to get anxious and then the head starts to worry. This has some variation with subtype, but it's the body that can be the calming force. Many sixes really enjoy accessing nature because it calms them down. Sevens tend to rely a lot on their head center with ideation and sometimes with their body center, but not as much as the heart, but it's about this practice can be really good for sevens to just go into the heart and say, it's here. It's really quite an amazing, interesting kind of functioning part of me. Now, eights tend to rely on their body centers the most, and sometimes their head centers, and often their heart centers too, but it depends on how much development work that eight has done, how much access they really have to their heart center. So this can be very helpful for them. And nines can get a little bit confused, like, well, I think I'm a heart center, maybe I'm a body center, maybe I'm a head center. It's like it brings this kind of practice can bring each of the centers more into clarity for nines. Okay.
Well, it was a great overview of how the different types are going to show up within those different centers. So it sounds like that when we think about like following our deeper purpose, we will often default to our primary center that is associated with our type, but really to kind of flesh things out in a more comprehensive way, we really need to access all three centers. Is that accurate?
Oh, totally. I often use the analogy of a three-legged stool. If you have a two-legged stool, you're going to fall over. A three-legged stool is you don't need four legs. You only need really three. Four is good. You could add your spiritual center too, but just with the head, heart, and body, if you only use one of them, you're definitely going to fall and not utilize all your resources. If you use two of them, it's wobbly, right? Using all three centers creates stability. Plus, I always call these advisors, they're free. They're free. They're there for you anytime. Just, use them and use them well.
Love for you to hear an example from a client you've worked with about how they had one sense of their purpose that wasn't really quite getting traction. It was more like the one-legged stool. And then when they really started accessing all three centers, then they ended up with a much more clarified purpose and how to go about embodying it.
Well, the one that comes to mind also relates to what I was talking about. Do what you love and be good at it. And then we'll do the type. So this is a woman. She loved singing. She wanted to be a singer. She thought that she lived in the US, that she should go to Paris and she could sing cabaret. And that's what she loved. Now, when she was a type 4. That's what she loved and she wanted to follow that. But what is she good at? She really didn't have much of a singing voice. Now, we can debate whether, different cultures have different sort of standards for singing voice, but she really the talent wasn't there. The gift wasn't there. But what she did have talent in was really bringing audiences in. And she really had an amazing capacity to market other people. And so it's like in her world, it's like she had this thing, she was using her heart center because she loved singing, but she wasn't using her head center enough to go, am I even good at this? And then she ended up accessing her body center and saying, I can still do what I love I can be in this space, but what action can I take? Because the body center is the action center. It's like, how can I manifest this love of music without, and acknowledge that my singing voice isn't really that good, even though I love it. Sometimes we sound better to ourselves than we actually are.
That's a great example. I'd love to maybe another example about how like bringing in another center helped to make pursuing the purpose more enjoyable or fun or some other dimension that sort of helped to make it more successful as well.
What do you think about that? That's a really good question. And I'm thinking about an example of someone who had a purpose and was able to bring in a not as utilized center to be able to do that. And what I'm thinking about is a client who's a type 1. And she was very talented and she was excellent at a lot of things. She was a little bit stuck in her sort of structure because everything had to be just so, or she got very anxious. And so essentially she wasn't having fun. And where does fun or joy lie? It really starts in the heart. So she was really good at what she did, and she was very good at getting things done. So, head and body, but it's in her heart was where real joy and pleasure. And many times sevens, for example, ones feel like they can't really have fun unless they're on vacation, and then they tend to structure that up. So it's like is that their idea of fun? But the joy, finding the joy in what you do, does come from being able to access the heart center. And so that was really important for her to be able to do that.
It sounds like it may make it more sustainable as well if we can really keep our heart in things as well.
Well, I also think what you're saying, Stephen, is the more all three centers are kind of working in the same direction in you, and it's a direction you want to go in, the more sustainable anything is going to be.
Mm-hmm. How does this connect with the action plan you were talking about? So it's like getting attunement with those different wisdom voices, getting clarity on purpose, and then building an action plan around it.
Well, I think a lot of people do a lot of planning, and that can vary by type too. All of us sort of have our own version of planning by type, and I could run through those too. But so that said, I think what I've experienced and observed is when you really know what you want and you're really aligned behind it and you have the support in your life and from yourself to do that, the plan is actually forward steps. And instead of saying it was an elaborate spreadsheet, action plan, 3 year, it doesn't have to be that complicated. In fact, if we do it in that complex a way, things are changing within us, things are changing in our environment. What we thought would work now actually turns out not to. So we may not be as flexible. So it's like the simplicity, not simplistic, but the more simple the plan, the more you're going to manifest. But you can't have a simple plan unless you know really from all three centers what you want, why you want it, and you're working on making yourself like increasingly self-mastering. And then the other thing, which goes into the program a little bit, if you don't mind, but it's like, are you willing to step into the zone of possibility and opportunity, or are you wanting to be in your comfort zone? Because if we're going to kind of do something new and different, we have to be able to step into possibility and opportunity. And it doesn't mean you leave your comfort zone, but it means you have to be able to step in and then come back into comfort and, sort of integrate and balance those two zones for yourself.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I kind of want to circle us back around to those 5 factors you originally displayed in the slide and talk a little bit about how different types might tend to get hung up in one place or another, some of the differentiators or pitfalls to be aware of how our type manifests and how we engage our purpose.
Well, Stephen, your questions are good ones and challenging in a good way. And that's a complex question. I'll give just some examples because this could be a lot, but I love running the 9 types through these different things. So I'll start with doing what you love. So for type 5s, it's like to do what you love, you have to access your heart because you might think you love something. That's your brain saying, I think I love this. I'm interested in this. I'm stimulated. But that's not the same as something that you really love from your heart. So it's about, for 5s, it's about needing to access your heart center, very much so. Now, another type, let me take doing what you love. Let me take 6s. It's really hard sometimes for 6s to do what they love because they tend to do what they think won't get them in trouble or what their duty is to do. Or sometimes they can go against that with a kind of like be rebellious, but that isn't really what they love. It's not what their pure passion or pure purpose is. So it's like because 6s are the most complex, I think, of all the 9 types. So if you can kind of reduce the complexity without, getting rid of the great insights and all those wonderful things. It's like finding what you love is really more essential. I'll just give you an example. I have a colleague and a dear friend, and he's a 6, and he's been a strategist, and he's good at that. I mean, his mind is amazing. Created a big business. But when he retired, he's actually now doing what he loves. And one of the things he did right before he was retiring, he started doing some work in prisons, teaching the Enneagram and giving them skills. And he was just passionate about this. And I think, probably more than he ever had been. He didn't even know. He kind of just stepped into this because he was working, I think, with United Way. But it really helped him. He really got in touch with his heart. He just, his heart was just like getting so big and big. Now, being being good at what you do, this doesn't really have to do with type, because type might show a little bit about what your interest is, but to be good at something isn't really related to type. But if you take type 3s and type 1s, they like to really be good at what they do. Okay, so that's good. That's a good thing. But then let's talk about 3s. They sometimes don't take risks to do things that they could be good at because they think they might not be good at it, and the risk of failing might be too big. So they don't explore areas that they might love because they're afraid they might not be good at it. So that's important. 1s could be very good at and have, things, and they like to have high standards of excellence, but there might be some areas in the area of their pursuit that they're not as good at as they could be if they could just relax a little bit. So I have a friend who's an amazing cook. She's a type 1. Now, she will never, to my knowledge, ever make something without a recipe. And she'll adjust the recipe. And when she adjusts the recipe, she'll say, this is my original recipe, sort of. She's not fully claiming credit. But she just doesn't want to not do something. And the cookbook makes her feel, a good cookbook makes her feel be good. So, and I know another person who's a 1 who doesn't use recipes, but it has to do with the value of not wasting anything. But she's a better cook than he is. But could she be even better than she is? Absolutely could. Now, making yourself easy to work with. This is a big challenge for all of us, because even 9s who think they're easy to work with, but to be easy to work with or be with, it means that you also have a solid sense of yourself, so that you're not acquiescing or accommodating other people, but you're actually engaged with them fully as a full person. So, it's about setting boundaries and being able to say no, but it also means you can say yes. Now, no type is easier than another to deal with. It depends on who we are. But the more you work on your self-development, and the Enneagram is probably the best system ever for doing that, the easier you're going to be able to be with for yourself and to be with for other people. So sometimes people always think of being easy to be with as others. And I would say, how easy am I to be with myself? What are the things where I spend a lot of time, vexing, I'm an Enneagram 2, so I vex over relationships, and I often don't share that with people, but oh, this didn't go well, and I'll spend an inordinate amount of time. That's something that I'm working on in my development. So we can all do that. Now, core values. I think this is the hardest area for everybody. If I say to people, what are your top 3 core values? A lot of times people draw a blank. But that doesn't mean they don't have them. They just haven't really thought about it. So, and this gets a little bit into what we were talking about earlier, you and I, before we started this program, but is about each of the types has certain values that go with their type, and those that may be core to them. And that's okay, because those are areas that help them align themselves with what they really think is important to be. But we also may have core values that go way beyond our types, and helping you find what those are is probably central to, I see these as sort of pavers or stones that help us navigate our next steps. Creating the support. This is a really hard one for 8s and 2s, especially because 8s and 5s, I'll put 8, 5, and 2. That's also, they're on a triangle in the Enneagram as well. But it's really hard for those three types to ask people to do things for them, but for very different reasons. So the fives, like, think that they're so independent and they don't want to rely on anybody else because they think that resources are scarce and they can take care of themselves and they don't want other people making demands on them. So it's really hard. They have to learn how to, if you're going to manifest your purpose, is to create more support around you. People really do want to be there, but be selective, of course. Now, most twos have a hard time asking. And, when I talk to a lot of other twos about it, it's like often we don't ask for the help we want because if we ask and we don't get it, the disappointment is so huge because we see ourselves as helping others and doing that. So we also don't want to be dependent on others, even though in some ways twos are the most dependent of all the types because we're so dependent on others' reactions. But asking, putting in a request, could you help me with this? Hearing a no is just so hard. It's better not to ask. And in type eights, they don't want to ask for support because they're the big, superheroes of the Enneagram and they don't really need anybody else. They're the ones that kind of save the city for everybody else. And nobody is big enough to support them, but they want the support really. In their heart of hearts, they want somebody who's big enough that they can fall back and they'll be caught. And, somebody can catch them as they fall. And so, it's just something for all types have specific issues related to these areas, but I've just covered a few of them.
There's a whole set of very fascinating insights. So thank you, Ginger, for illuminating some of those particular challenges and also opportunities. I'm wondering if do you notice that there's like clusterings of purpose that are directly related to a type? So you have like the superhero eights, but they tend to have purposes that are sort of like more akin to each other? Or is it more about like understanding how you engage your purpose from the lens of the
the latter. The latter. Like I was talking, I always think of specifics, and you're good at asking for examples too. But so several people of the different types may sound like they're pursuing the same purpose, but they're doing it for different reasons. I have a friend who I was speaking to over the weekend. She's in Australia and I'm in the US. And we were talking about kind of wanting to make something big happen in the social consciousness arena. But when we talked about what it was, and we might or might not have engaged in the same kind of activity if somebody had asked us, but her thing as an 8, she wanted big impact. It's like whatever she put her energy to, and she's very clever and very smart and very robust and in many ways, but she needs to have big impact because if that impact isn't there, she doesn't feel satisfied. And she does coach individuals and that she can have big impact there, but it's about big impact. And for me, as we were talking, what came out is my motivation is contribution. It's like, I like big impact. I like impact. It doesn't have to be big, and it can be, but she's got to have big. But I like contribution. Am I contributing to somebody's well-being in some way that's sustainable? And so it's a sort of sustainable contribution that is really important to me. And that's related to my type and subtype, but she's not the same subtype in 8 that I am in 2. But we could actually engage in the very same activity, but pursue it as a purpose for 2 very different reasons.
That makes a lot of sense. Well, Ginger, you're just a fountain of great insights on these subjects. So I want to spend
we started and
I want to spend some more time talking more directly about your program to empower people in their deeper purpose with the Enneagram. And so this program is called Empower Your Deeper Purpose with the Enneagram, Ancient Wisdom and Modern Tools to Pursue and Actualize Your Purpose with Clarity, Vision, and Love. You can find it at the URL pursueyourpurposecourse.com, pursueyourpurposecourse.com. And so this is a 7-week program. There's no prerequisites. It's helpful to have a foundational understanding of your Enneagram type, but you can embark on this without any prerequisites. And it's really an opportunity to both hone your purpose and do so in understanding the specific ways that your Enneagram type can empower that, impede that, create extra challenges. So you understand in a more nuanced way how Enneagram can help you understand how to manifest that purpose in a really beautiful and aligned way. So Ginger, I'd love for you to share in your own words, really where you're going to be, why take this program? What's the purpose of taking this program for someone? And then I'll read out the module titles and you can give us a preview of what's coming in neat.
Well, I think this program is ideal for anybody who's at any place along their purpose path. So that could go from, I don't even know, I'm just starting, to I really know, but I want to know how to take it further, anything in between. I also believe that this is a program that works for any age. And I think that, there may be some big purpose, like Rose said, and I feel like I'm on that now, but there's a sort of incremental purposes along the way. So the process that we're going to be doing, you can use over and over and over again, and you can use it wherever you are on the pathway. But I think that you will come away from it feeling empowered, enlightened about yourself, confident in the processes that we're using because they're very grounded. I'm very experientially based, so every single module will have an experience for you to engage in, and it's like an activity to bring these things out in you, because I feel like it's all in us already. It's just, how do we tap into that?
Module 1, forge a path to fulfillment and joy by allowing what you love in your type to guide you to your deeper purpose.
Okay, so this is about focusing on what do you love to do? What do you really love? When are you ignited inside? What brings the joy out in you? And, in a sense, when are your lights on? Because, there could be something that you think that you're excited by and you think you like and all that, but your lights aren't on. There could be some things where your lights are really on, and it's like, that'll be a surprise, or certain aspects of what you're sharing will be exciting and you'll be illuminated when you're talking about it and sharing that, and some parts of it. And we'll be looking at all of those factors so you can have a much greater sense of what you love.
Module 2, gain clarity on your true talents and cultivate a deeper understanding of your strengths and purpose.
Okay, so now it's like, okay, what are you good at? What are your skills and what are your qualities? And the focus here is, or the idea is, that we tend to take our strengths, our skills, and our good qualities for granted. We don't even think about them and how they contribute because we're so used to them. Sometimes people think, oh, I shouldn't even share that because that's bragging. It's not. We do spend quite a bit of time, but we won't be doing that in this program. But most of us, and I think it's human, when something doesn't go well, or we wanted to have something happen, it didn't, we'll spend time analyzing what didn't go well and how can I keep that from happening again. But I'm going to suggest it's not only just as important, it's even more important to figure out, what are you good at? What are you really good at? What did you bring to this? And we're going to be using a process that'll help you uncover this. And it'll be fun. This is really fun. And you'll be quite surprised.
Module 3, welcome a vision-based life filled with love, connection, and possibility by mastering the edgy aspects of your Enneagram type.
I love the word edgy because, I don't even use the word, this isn't good. I believe it's really important to embrace. Acceptance is good. That's always a good thing. But the things we're good at are our strengths. Okay, that's fine. But the things that are developmental, thank goodness, those are our development edges. And so we'll be looking at, based on your type, what are some of your development edges? And even if you don't know your type, we'll be able to figure out what some of the areas of development might be. And we'll be sharing ideas and techniques for how to work on that. So you increase your, call it self-mastery level. And there's a specific process that I use with you that I think will be very helpful.
Module 4, move beyond your comfort zone to open to new possibilities in the greater plan for your life.
Well, so some people like to sit on the couch. That's the comfort zone, and it's a good place. And some people like to go off and try all kinds of new things all the time. That's fine too. But where's the balance? And can you be in both zones at the right time? And so here is an exploration of how much are you in your comfort zone? How much are you in your opportunity possibility zone? How does that relate to your type? How do you move both more into your opportunity zone if you're not there much, or anchor yourself in your comfort zone if you're not there much? And how does all this relate to your Enneagram type?
Module 5, live your core values to illuminate the path toward your divine, purposeful life.
Yeah, so the path is a metaphor, but it's real. So if we have certain core values and we know what they are, and we look at our purpose as we're getting closer to being really clear about it, how do we integrate our core values with our purpose? And how do we make sure as we're going on our path, thinking of each of these values as a very important sort of stepping stone, every step we take is aligned with our core values, because that is what's going to add sustainability to it and to what we're doing, and it's going to add to our joy.
Module 6, discern what you really want and how to get it by harnessing the wisdom of your centers of intelligence.
Okay, so this is starting to be where we put all of this together. So you have a much better sense of what you love and a far better sense of what you're good at. Okay, and then you've made a commitment and a lot of clarity on how to work on the edgy aspects of your Enneagram type, and a sense of what you might do to get more into your comfort zone if you're too much in possibility, or more into possibility if you're too much in how that relates to type and when. So now, and you've got your core values as stepping stones. So now where are you? And that's what Module 6 is about. And here it's going to be creating coherence in terms of all of those areas to sort of get a really good sense of where you are with your purpose right now.
Module 7, integrate your 3 centers of intelligence to activate the power of intention and start pursuing your purpose.
Yeah, well, we will be using the 3 centers throughout as well as Enneagram type, but there's a process I have that's an intention process that is really powerful, and it uses all 3 centers plus a few more things. So I'm going to teach you how to use that with respect to this, where you've come in Module 6 to what your purpose is. And it's an intention process that really works. And I think you can use it in other aspects of your life too. We'll also look at what kind of support you want and you're willing to go for. And I'm going to ask you to kind of really step out, because sometimes people think support is just people who will, tell me, oh, good job, or that's nice. No, that's nice. But I'm talking about support people that will also tell you, here, why don't you try this? Or people who will be very honest with you, and people you respect, and, sort of gives you the ground. And then all from that, then we go into what are the simple steps, next steps.
Well, it's very helpfully laid out, and I know it's going to be super practical and really integrate the depth of our deeper soul commitments and why we're here with our practical action plan for how to get there. So really great stuff. You can find it at pursueyourpurposecourse.com, pursueyourpurposecourse.com. And so you not only get the 7 90-minute live sessions with Ginger, which includes time to ask your questions, do interactive exercises. You also get recordings, video and audio for every session, as well as word-for-word transcript to work with, study, and highlight. There'll be some small group time to connect with other participants. There's weekly exercises for home. There's a Facebook community to support you and deepen your experience. And on the page, there's also a number of extra bonuses to enhance your journey. There's an illustrated PDF called Perspectives on Purpose from the 9 Enneagram Types. Ginger, you want to share a little bit about that bonus?
Yeah. So I created that bonus for this particular program because I think that each of the 9 types has a sort of higher order sort of perspective on purpose that they are particularly aligned to, but I think they also represent sort of areas that we could all benefit from incorporating more into our lives. So, for example, in 1s, it's excellence. How do we bring excellence into our purpose? And for 2s, but not just 2s, it's service. A purpose that doesn't, without service to somebody, something, even it could be nature, but it's without service is not going to be a fully embodied purpose. And for 3, it's the perspective of being really honest. And I don't mean brutally honest, but I mean really self-honest and honest with others, and as we pursue our purpose. And for 4s, it's passion. It's about really being passionate about what we do and having things be very meaningful to us. And for 5s, it's about wisdom. And wisdom in 5 actually isn't just in the head, it's the wisdom of full engagement with our purpose. And for 6s, it's having the courage to do new things. And, it's like if we're in new territory, new space, we're not going to know exactly what's going to happen. That's also part of the fun of it. For 7s, it's joy. How do you bring joy into your purpose? And for 8s, it's about being big, not being afraid to be big. Also, 8s can also learn not to be small. Sometimes the smallest things have the biggest impact. And so that's kind of fun to pursue. And then in 9, it's about wholeness. It's about maintaining our wholeness. And for those around us as we go around pursuing our purpose.
Well, thank you for that wisdom transmission there, just in describing the bonus. That's great. And then on the page, you'll see there's another bonus that it's a special bonus you get when you sign up right away by midnight tonight Pacific time. There's a dialogue with Ginger and Peter O'Hanrahan. It's called Possibilities, Pitfalls, and Practices for Each Type as They Pursue Their Purpose. Ginger, you want to share a little more about that special bonus they get today?
Be happy to. Peter, if he's listening to this, will probably go, you said that? Okay. So Peter and I are very good friends, and we've been really good friends for many, many years. So I said, Peter, do this video with me for the Shift Network. I think it'll be fun. So we did, and it's really, we both had a great time. What we do is we go through each of the types, and I share first what is the greatest potential in purpose of that type. Now, Peter decided I should do that because he thinks that I'm better at tuning into people's purpose than he is. And I don't know if that's true, but anyway, I said, well, okay. And then he talks about the kind of what might be type related obstacles to that purpose. And then the two of us talk about development processes or activities that would be good for people of that type to overcome the obstacles in pursuit of their purpose. So it's a kind of fun thing to watch. I think we enjoy doing it. It's very relaxed. And we cover all the 9 types. So, we thought it was great to do. And we'll sort of thank the Shift for giving us the opportunity to create something like this.
Well, it sounds like a truly delightful bonus and really illuminating for the specific challenges and pitfalls and practices for each type. So again, you can find the whole program laid out in detail at pursueyourpurposecourse.com. So we've kept the investment really accessible for this program. It's just 3 payments of $128, or you save 10% when you pay in full with 1 payment of $349. The course is going to start April 6th and run Thursdays at 9 Pacific, noon Eastern. But even if you can't make the live times, you can get the full value with the recordings, the transcripts, and the community as well. On the page at pursueyourpurposecourse.com, you'll also see some testimonials about Ginger and her work, about her brilliance, generosity, powerful impact, prepared to be transformed, one of the most intuitive and gifted teachers of the Enneagram, rare teacher, great testimonials about the power of her work, not just on the high level abstraction, but really in embodied change in people's lives. So you're in good hands, and you're going to have, I think, a great experience of understanding how your Enneagram type can infuse and empower your purpose in a deeper way. So again, you can find all the details at pursueyourpurposecourse.com. And when you sign up by midnight tonight, you're going to get that special bonus with Peter O'Hanrahan on possibilities, pitfalls, and practices for each type as they pursue their purpose. So Ginger, it's been a really fascinating hour. Thank you for your time and insights, and just anything that's on your heart you still want to share with folks who are considering diving deeper with you.
I love doing this work. So I really hope that those of you who would find this kind of program valuable will really join me. And I look forward to that.
Great. Well, thank you for the depth of insight that has gone into the creation of this body of work, and thank you for your illuminating insights today. And thank you all for joining, and you're warmly welcome to go further into the program called Empower Your Deeper Purpose with the Enneagram, Ancient Wisdom, and Modern Tools to Pursue and Actualize Your Purpose with Clarity, Vision, and Love. And you can do so at pursueyourpurposecourse.com, pursueyourpurposecourse.com. And you'll get that special bonus with Peter O'Hanrahan when you sign up by midnight. So thank you all, and thank you, Ginger.